Hi, Taurus Sisters. It's Amy K. Gunther from TaurusSisters.com. I got a question from a reader, a subscriber here, and she said, "Is it rude if I asked to take my own food to Passover meal because I can't eat what they are serving?" And so we're going to talk about that. But first, the new issue of Taurus Sisters magazine is out, and it is almost entirely about Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Go subscribe to this at store.taurussisters.com. Link is in the description below. When you subscribe to the print one, you're making it free for everyone to download. A lot of people can't afford this, especially people from around the world, and they do download the digital version. So thank you to everyone who downloads this or who purchases this so that everyone can download it. Thank you, thank you. All right, the topic at hand. Is it rude if you have a special diet of some sort? Is it rude to ask to take your own food to the Passover meal? And the answer is maybe. It just depends. So we're going to go through, I have some notes. I'm going to talk as fast as I can, or at least get through it. So I can't say everything, video will be too long. But here's some general tips and things to consider before you ask if it's okay. First, consider how important is it? Do you really need to take your own food? Passover meal is a big deal for the hostess. So the biggest thing that you should consider is not your own needs, but the hostess, the sweet woman who graciously took on this whole thing. It is no small task to host a Passover for a congregation. And that's the case that we're talking about here, is maybe a group one or one that someone else is hosting. So please, please consider her needs. And this is not like another Sabbath meal. A lot of congregations break bread every Sabbath. This is different. This is usually a lot more work for the hostess. And there's some other considerations too. So what you're going to hear me say is all about putting yourself in the shoes of the hostess. So she's the one you have to ask. So she's the one you need to consider. First of all, you could ask for the menu ahead of time to see if it's even an issue. Sometimes they know, sometimes they don't know the menu ahead. Sometimes they do it sort of potluck where people bring food, but there's a sign up. So people bring the right dishes that they sign up for. She will have planned, she meaning the hostess, will have planned everything out. She's not going to throw this together at the last minute. It's very thoughtfully planned. Even the layout of the food, where it's going to go, she plans out decorations, usually everything. Again, it's not like other Shabbat meals. So gauge her tone, ask her on the telephone, don't ask her through texting or an email. You want to hear her voice and gauge her tone. Is it really okay if you bring your own food, or is she like hesitant and not too happy about it? In which case, don't do it. So don't email, call her. If she does say that it's okay for you to bring your own food, what a wonderful, gracious hostess that she is. Because again, she doesn't have to. It's okay for her to set limits. She can't please everyone. I mean, us women, we want to please everyone. If she says no, it's probably because her husband is in the background saying, say no, you can't please everyone. You can't accommodate everyone, honey. And so they have to set some limits. And some of them might be out of spiritual conviction. So if she does graciously, or it's okay with that congregation, consider this though. If you bring your own food, you don't assume that there will be room in the refrigerator, and don't assume that you're going to be able to use the kitchen to prepare or store your food. If they're doing their own, if you want to do your own food, they already have the kitchen probably packed, most likely. Not in every case, but just don't assume, or much less demand, that now they make room for you in the fridge and room for you in the kitchen. Instead, take your own everything. Take your own serving utensils, take your own cooler. If you need refrigeration, take your own crock pot. Better bring an extension cord, and then keep all that stuff out of sight. Again, they're going to probably even move furniture around to make this room lovely. And you don't want to ruin or even distract from what the hostess is trying to accomplish. And so she may have made the room beautiful, and then you park a big old ugly cooler, right next to where everyone's walking or sitting, kind of ruins the aesthetic. So be willing to die to self and walk some extra steps to keep your cooler and your crock pot out of the way, maybe in a back hall or a back room. And then when you need it, you could go get what you need from it. The crock pot you could put on your spot when it's time to eat. which is only a small portion of the thing. And then you take your crock pot back to, your little nook of stuff. It's important at these events to keep stuff out of the way for a lot of reasons. But again, just to respect and honor the hostess and her efforts to keep everything looking nice. So plan, if you're going to need your own food, plan to take care of your own self. So take your cooler, take your crock pot, take your extension cord, stuff like that. Consider that you still should contribute to the group meal because, and maybe donate some money to an offering if there is a way to donate to the supplies. Even though you're taking your own food, she may have still purchased tablecloths and napkins and flowers and all these other things. And it's still okay to contribute to the group meal too, even though you might not eat much of it. You still can be a contributor, even though you're doing your own food. Be considerate of other people, of other little children. If you have children, don't take them the most awesome dessert in the world, unless you have enough to share with the other littles. Because again, we just don't want to distract from this special night. The focus of the Passover meal is not ourselves. It is worship, and it is remembering redemption. So once you have a bunch of little 4-year-olds saying, I want what she has, it just becomes distracting. They shouldn't covet, but you also ought to either not take something awesome for your little kids or take enough to share in case other kids want some. And if the hostess says no, she says, no, we just don't let people bring their own food. There might be some very good reasons. I'm sure there's some very good reasons why. First of all, be very gracious. That means full of grace and understanding towards her. And you demonstrate that by not being bitter, not thinking the worst of her, and certainly not grumbling or gossiping about her behind her back. She is so gracious and wonderful to host this and to do as much as she can, but we all know she can't please everybody. And so put yourself in her shoes and understand she might also be listening to her husband saying, no. And when it comes to bringing your own food, the husband actually might be the one who has the reason. So we're going to get into that. If you do decide to just try to eat some of the food on the table, which can you get by? Can you get by eating just a couple of the side dishes that they provide? Can you eat before you come? You can eat more when you go home. Can you just get by? Can you just suffer a little and be a little hungry? Chances are you can. And that depends on how much do you want to be with this group. Because you can just have your own Passover at your own home. So if she says don't bring your own food, how can you still be there? There's ways. I do think it's very important that you still partake of the elements of the Seder. By the elements, I mean the unleavened bread, the grape juice / wine, the bitter herbs. A lot of congregations will dip salt water. So at least in some way, try to participate in those. Because to come to a Passover, especially if they're doing the whole Seder, and to sit there with your arms folded and not even partake of the elements might be, again, at least distracting, and it might be rude. So consider at least if you can partake of the elements. And if not, then that just might not be a good fit for you to attend that Passover event. And that gets back to, you can have your own Passover. I have a Passover kit. It's a free download on my website. It will teach you everything you need to know to host your own Passover. You do not have to go to your congregation's Passover. At least I doubt. I can't imagine. I think they would be very understanding if you say, oh, I want to come, but we have special food needs, and so we're going to host our own. And there might be another family with special food needs who wants to come to yours. Because the beauty of having your own is that you can do it any way you want. And then when people come to you with lots of requests, and people do, I guarantee you, every hostess of a big Passover gathering has lots of special requests, then you have the prerogative and really the obligation sometimes to say, no, this is where I'm going to draw the line. I love you and I wish I could accommodate that, but I cannot. So consider hosting your own Passover. There are so many new Torah keepers every year. Some of these groups are getting too big and it's too much, which again is why as the group gets bigger, usually there's more restrictions. So it's okay, I think in most cases, for people to start doing their own. Invite a couple families to your home and do your own. You can do it. If your husband's on board and willing to join you or tolerate or whatever, you and your husband, I really believe, especially if you use something like my Passover kit, you can host your own Passover. And it's a free download that I just want everyone to do Passover some way or another. Other alternatives is, again, see what you can eat and see if you can get by with the food that they do serve without bringing your own food. And again, sometimes it's perfectly fine to bring your own food. It just depends on the situation. Consider if you can bring a big dish of something you can eat. Something, especially maybe something like a casserole, because in a casserole you can put in different food groups. You can get all different macros in one dish. Maybe make a big batch of that and bring it as a shared dish and label it. And then your family can eat just from that, but so can everyone else. So you're not like doing your own thing. Because if you're with the group, you want to be with the group as much as possible. And then so that's one option. You ought to label it well. A lot of congregations are labeling food now. In fact, I'm going to, before I publish this, click the link in the description below. I have little place cards that you can print. It'll be a free printable that you can print and put in front of each dish on the Passover spread, because a lot of places will still do it like buffet style, that will identify this dish is dairy-free, nut-free, or if it's vegetarian or if it's gluten-free. And so each woman, when they put their dish down, they fill out a tag and set it in front of their dish. And then you know what you're getting. Don't walk around beyond that demanding that everybody tell you all the ingredients in all of their dishes. What kind of butter did you use? What kind of oil did you use? Like, that's distracting. And it puts a woman on the spot. And it makes them feel like they didn't do a good job if they don't use the oil that you want them to use. So when you're at these shared events, you just have to be gracious, take a chance, or just not do it. But you can't walk around like this to people either. So, but those tags can give you some, and actually a lot of important information. Don't insist that people save you some of the special dish if you brought like a big one. Get in line early, I guess. Again, don't distract or disrupt from the focus of the night. Consider if you can suffer, if you eat there, and this depends on your food. What is your diet restriction? Is it because of a life-threatening allergy that's going to put you in anaphylaxis and land you in the ER? Or is it like you're trying to lose weight, so you're cutting back on sugar? Is it a preference or a food need or a medical need? And if it's a medical need, how severe is it? And so consider if there's any night of the year in which to let go of your food preferences or cheat on your diet, this might be that night, because this is not like normal breaking bread. This is a very special meal, and someone else, if you're going to a big one, they have put in a lot of thought and effort into the meal. And so can you suffer, and I say suffer because you're going to die to self, you're going to die to your preferences, and you're just going to eat what they serve. Now, some of you cannot, but some of you can. And you might want to take some Tums or Lactate or whatever you need if you eat something you're not used to. Prepare. But some of you, this might be a night to let go of those food preferences and fully break bread with your congregation. This is I'm going to go through something really important here for you. It's important for you to understand why, especially the woman's husband might like sort of put his foot down and say, no, we don't let people bring their own food. First of all, they want to make sure everyone's bringing food that's in accordance with Leviticus 11. And then some congregations out there are even stricter. They want kosher. And especially if you're new to Torah, everyone who's new to Torah, some of us who are old to Torah still make mistakes about food. Passover is like the last night that we want unclean ingredients on the spread. So they might just want to do the food themselves, or only have women bring food who have done it for a while and they know that they understand the biblical rules. The other biblical rules for Passover especially are to not eat anything that's leavened. And different congregations, different hosts and their husbands have different interpretations of that. And because they're aware of what I just said, that we don't all interpret that the same way, they might only have themselves and a few helpers provide the food. And then because here's what I'm getting at. Some people think leaven is just already risen bread. Some people think leaven is the ingredient yeast. So anything with yeast on the label, or some also anything with baking soda, baking powder, cream of tartar on the label. There's different like levels of strictness, and they might just want to make really sure that everything that's brought within their threshold, within their area of responsibility, meets their conviction, their interpretation of scripture. Does that make sense? And so if they have people bringing their own food and you bring something into the camp that they think violates scripture for this special meal, this, and really the whole week of unleavened bread, they're going to ask you to take it out to your car anyway. And then that's just awkward. And again, it distracts from the purpose of the night. And so people who have been doing this for a while, they probably have just realized it's just better to do the food ourselves. So than to have the drama or the distraction or the hurt feelings or the uncomfortableness, and then you're hungry anyway because it's in your car because you didn't know not to put croutons or whatever, you know. So if they say no, they probably have a very good reason for saying no. It's not necessarily rude to ask, but be very understanding if they say no, we don't let people bring their own food. Those are some of the reasons, and they're big, important reasons, because here's the ultimate thing. This is a spiritual meal, and that's why there's biblical rules about it. You have to eat unleavened bread. You have to eat bitter herbs. I'm forgetting it. It's all in that Passover kit, the download. You drink the wine or the grape juice. Some congregations don't drink wine and things like that. And so there's things that maybe you don't know that the host and hostess know. And since it's their event, they are the shepherds of that event. And that it falls on their head what they allow to happen at their event. And be thankful for them that they're willing to take that on. That's a big responsibility. And they're trying. I know that they love you and they're trying to please you, but they might say no. In which case, again, decide how much you can diet to self, how much you can tolerate with a happy countenance. You know, if you go thinking, all right, I'll just eat the side dishes because I don't eat meat or whatever, don't grumble about that. Or you're doing Passover wrong. Really doing Passover wrong if you're grumbling about the Passover meal. You have to be able to do it with a wholehearted, happy heart, or just host your own. Just consider hosting your own in your home, which is very scriptural. When you look at the first Passover night, they were told to be in their homes. So that's a lot to say. I thought it was a really good question, and the lady who asked it was so sincere about it. I loved her heart and her concern for walking in a respectful, honoring way to the host and hostess, and that's the way we all should walk it out. If you have ideas for future videos or talks, you can email me, amy@TorahSisters.com. Go subscribe to the magazine. There's so much stuff in this and in the previous issues that might answer questions you have. Because I don't write all of this. Other ladies write this too. So I will see you later. It's going to be Shabbat in a few hours. Happy Prep Day, sisters.